Um, what's your take? I know you've commented on Bitcoin as, it's been become this protocol where it's been hard to innovate, hard to get agreements, hard to really push the envelope on new technologies, and that's part of the frustration on starting, let's say, Ethereum or Cardano. What's your future prognosis of where Bitcoin is headed? Are you super optimistic that Bitcoin just remains the preeminent kind of store of value in the crypto world, or do you have any kind of skepticism or doubt, let's say 10 or 20 years down the road?
Bitcoin is only valuable because it's valuable. It has no technological advantage. It's actually the least advanced of all the cryptocurrencies and least feature risk. There's no reason for it other than the fact that it exists. And if the value plummets, no one will mine it, and then you lose all your security. So the minute that it gets flipped by another cryptocurrency, unless they can find a way to actually innovate again, Bitcoin will die, in my view, because there's no reason to hold it over its neighbors. This is one of the reasons why we work so hard with Cardano in particular at trying to build a proper governance system, because you don't want a situation every time you want to do an innovation, you end up with a Cardano Classic or Cardano Cash or these types of things. Bitcoin lost some of its earliest and best people over just the block size, a system parameter. It just tells you if you can't even agree on something so trivial as a block size, then how do you get post quantum crypto when quantum computers come? How do you get smart contracts? How do you get new ways of structuring the network stack? How do you move from a replicated model to a decentralized model? How do you throw data away? What happens when the Bitcoin blockchain is a petabyte and only two people can have it as NSA and Google? So what do you do with that? And if you can't decide a block size, how the hell do you decide these much more significant and serious things? You need a governance system that sits on top of it. And unfortunately, that's so far beyond the initial vision of Satoshi. That's like going to a bunch of Jews and trying to convince them that Jesus Christ is their savior. You have a whole new religion, okay? You're not really going to succeed in that respect. You're just, it is what it is. You have to accept that these things coexist. So what usually happens is that when the evolutionary and competitive dynamics of the system are counterproductive to growth beyond a certain point, the system will stall, and then 1,000 flowers will bloom. The vast majority of them will wilt, but some of them will become a mighty oak, and they will replace the old system, and it will assume all the absorb all of the goodness of that system, but not carry the bad characteristics of it.
Mhm.
So you'll still have the blockchain component. You'll still have it be able to settle transactions the way Bitcoin does. The email for money thing will be there, but then you'll have smart contracts and governance and interoperability and much faster capabilities, and the ability to be global scale and work really well on a cell phone and have privacy and all these additional features and functionality. And if that doesn't happen, one of the other 1,000 flowers will have that, and then eventually they'll meet in the middle and kind of merge together and get to the next system and so forth. It's a very Darwinian system in that
Mhm.
respect, and that's a great thing for everybody.
Mhm. Um, what would you say would be your key insight in terms of crypto and why you started Cardano over the years? I mean, it sounds like I've watched a ton of your videos over the past week or two, and it seems like part of your focus is you really are trying to make something scalable, something that isn't limited by poor governance or by poor structure or by a poor system. You're really trying to make a crypto, a blockchain for the future, something that really can be everything that a blockchain should be. Um, is that, what kind of, where is that coming from? And is that perhaps what separates Cardano from other cryptos? Is that focus on really trying to achieve kind of this ideal in as best to your guys' ability, right? A blockchain that can scale in the future.
Yeah, I mean, the mission was always how do we get economic identity to the billions of people who don't have it? Well, you build them a financial operating system that can handle their identity, their value, and give them a governance stack. So you don't need central actors to run everything. So when you actually follow that through logically, you say, well, hang on a second here. I have to build a system with billions of users, but no Microsoft or Apple or Google. Holy moly, that's hard. So we said, well, the first thing we have to solve is this idea that you bring more than you take. So, imagine like a potluck or, like something like that, where normally when you go to meet some family and friends, you would bring some food with you. And ideally, you'd bring as much or more food than the food you eat. So, no matter how many people show up, there's always enough for people to eat. Right now, with all cryptocurrencies, it's the same amount of food. You're just adding more chairs around the table. So the more people who show up, the less food for everybody. That's not a sustainable system, and you're not going to get to the scale of millions to billions of users, like we see with Ethereum right now in the gargantuan transaction fees. You move $1, you have to spend $50. It's crazy, and that's by design. It's not a bug or something. It's just how those protocols work. So building truly scalable protocols is a super hard thing because you have to admit adversaries, and you also have to admit that there's no centralized actor to optimize things. So we spent 6 years and 95 papers and lots of academic work to try to figure out what's possible and what's impossible. And a lot of it has been translating these massive systems that Google has built and others have built and asking, okay, well, how do we get what they've done but not have Google? These types of things. The other side of it is that once you have billions of people, they have to get along. So you need a management system to be able to kind of allow them to express themselves and vote and also pay for stuff as the system wants to upgrade. So you need a treasury system, you need a voting system, you need a governance system, a way of doing hard forks and so forth, because it's not going to work. You'll get to a certain point like Bitcoin where it's impossible to evolve behind a certain point. So you're just another checkpoint at that point, and then people leave you behind when the next generation comes out and then you're gone. And then finally, there are 8,000 cryptocurrencies. There's hundreds of legacy financial systems. You need to be interoperable. You need to have the ability to talk to all those systems. Could you imagine Wi-Fi if Wi-Fi was only constrained to the manufacturer? So like your Apple phone can only connect to an Apple router. Your Google phone can only connect to a Google router. Oh, it just wouldn't work. I mean, there's nothing humans agree on, but Wi-Fi is the one true religion. You can be in North Korea, you could be in Iran, you could be in Israel, you can be in Japan, South Korea, China, Russia, and the United States, and your phone can connect to the Wi-Fi in all those countries. It's truly extraordinary when you think about that geopolitically. That's the one true faith of humanity. That and Bluetooth that we've gotten. So you kind of need a Wi-Fi Bluetooth moment in finance, and you need something where, regardless of what system you happen to live in, there's a way for your thing to talk to their things, and there's a bridge for that. So whatever the third generation of cryptocurrencies happen to be, it has to do those three things. Your users have to produce as much as they consume so you can sustainably grow to billions. You have to have a Wi-Fi moment where everything just works, and you have to have a governance system that means that when you get to that scale, you don't fragment apart and break apart into 1,000 pieces, or get to a certain point where you just simply can't grow anymore because the firm is too big, if that makes sense. And so we said, let's go do that. And if we do that well, then I'm going to have the cheapest, bestest protocol in the world for economic identity. And I could tangibly go to Ethiopia and all these places and say, hey, how do we get microfinance and microinsurance and these other things to run? It just so happens that that's also the best protocol for America and for the European Union and for China and for other places. And it's an open protocol. So rent-seeking people seeking profit will build on that system. So I get to have my cake and eat it too. I get to go and do my life mission and go and play around in Africa and Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia. But then other people get to use the exact same infrastructure to do their stuff. And a lot of that stuff will be Fortune 500 companies and so forth. And their success is my success. The things they build, I get to use. The things I build, they get to use. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.